Welcome to the Dental Decoders podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Rogars, and I'm here to help you crack the code on all things dental operations. Each week, we dive into topics to help you overcome roadblocks, streamline operations, and reduce team burnout. Whether you're an owner, a practice manager, or a team member, this podcast is for you. Join us for insightful discussions, engaging interviews, and practical tips. So sit back and relax as we crack the code on all things dental operations together. Well, hello, Decoders. I wanted to just pop on quick and share with you that this episode of Dental Decoders podcast is proudly sponsored by Transformational Dental Coaching. Are you ready to take your practice to the next level? Because for the next 5 episodes, we're excited to partner with Transformational Dental Coaching, founded by the amazing Rebecca Herring. Rebecca brings over 15 years of experience in the dental industry, transforming practices and empowering teams to reach their full potential. Whether it's team building, optimizing operations, reducing costs with virtual assistants, you name it, Rebecca's experience covers it all. Why choose Transformational Dental Coaching? For one, to grow your practice, build a dream team and cut costs with virtual assistants. 2, unlock your team's full potential, enhance teamwork, communication, and patient care. And 3, boost efficiency. Identify and eliminate inefficiencies, allowing your team to focus on exceptional patient experience. We also have an exclusive offer for all of our listeners. Transformational Dental Coaching is offering our audiences a free consultation call. So don't miss the opportunity to elevate your practice and drive success. Check out their website, which will be linked in the show notes, but it is yourtdcoach.com, and schedule your free call today. Hello, Decoders, and hello, Rebecca. Welcome to another episode. So I already know you, I already love you, but for those listening who maybe didn't catch part 1 or haven't been around for any of the other episodes you've been on, can you just tell us a little bit about your background and who you are?
Absolutely. So happy to be here again with you, Brittany. Thank you for having me. Mm-hmm. I have been in dentistry for quite a while and so happy to be here again, sharing some great decoding moments. My dad's a dentist, so of course dentistry has been in my life forever. And I came into the industry probably about 20 years ago. I love helping practices and helping team members in their positions that they serve in to find ways to be more effective and to streamline their responsibilities so that they can be effective, and love helping dentists as well to find ways to take their whole team, all their operations, and turn it into a really powerful dream team to take their practices and go the distance and go exactly where they want to go with their practice. I also love helping dental practices when they're struggling with finding team members that can be long-term dedicated employees. I know that practices are struggling with this right now. And finding ways to think outside the box a little bit, like we did in the last practice that I was working in before I started my coaching business about 3 or 4 years ago, where we utilized multiple virtual assistants or remote team members to take the practice to their ultimate dream, utilize those virtual team members to basically take all of the front office responsibilities and do them remotely. It was very successful.
That's awesome. So in our part 1, we talked about the where, the when, the why. So we talked about, are you ready for a VA? We talked about what you can have VAs do. We talked about where to find your VAs. Now, in part 2, I kind of want to talk to you more about offices who have pulled the trigger. They have brought on a VA. Now what? Because I feel like a lot of offices think, okay, I've got a VA. Now I can just kind of chill. And that is why we hear so many horror stories about VAs, is because the expectation's just not set for offices and what is going to be needed there. So I would love for you to give me the lowdown on what that looks like once you've hired that VA, or even when it comes time to hiring a VA, what does the interview process look like, et cetera?
Absolutely. This is such a great topic, and I'm so glad we're talking about this today, because you're right. A lot of people have shared like this was the worst experience and we didn't enjoy it. It didn't meet my expectations. So this is a great topic. So I hope our listeners are taking some notes today, because this is the key. Whatever company you decide to go with, The great thing about most of the virtual companies that help you find your VA are going to give you the opportunity to tell them exactly what it is that you're looking for. So knowing exactly what this virtual team member needs to know or have some knowledge in is going to be important, because that's what they're going to base their search on when they pull from their talent pool, which can be very massive, to find you that perfect team member. This can include your culture. This can include the demographic of patients that you work with, right down to the team members within your own team. When you call the virtual company that you have vetted and you feel good about, you're going to have the opportunity to share this. They will come back to you with 3 to 5 potential virtual team members. Those team members will be sent to you. You'll be able to look over their resumes. You'll be able to watch a little video that the VA has prepared for you personally, with an introduction, sharing a little bit about themselves, their experience, what they like to do, those types of things. This gives you an opportunity before you even meet them and they meet you, for you to listen to them speaking, to see their personalities, to feel their energy, is what I like to say, right? You get a real good feeling about them before you even set up an interview. So take that time, get to know them a little bit before you even meet them. You'll then go back to the company and say, these are the 1, 2, 3, maybe even 5, maybe you like them all, that I'd like to interview. The company will then set up back-to-back interviews with those VAs for you, and 30 minutes should be plenty. You then get to interview them via Zoom and ask them questions. You can do a full interview with them. This is a great opportunity to get to know them, dig a little deeper into their experience. Where did you work? What did you enjoy? Why did you leave the virtual company you're working before? Anything you want to ask. There's no limits to this, in the sense that they're not US-based employees. You can ask them anything you want to ask them, but it's a really great opportunity to get to know them. At the end of those interview processes, if you connected with 1 or 2 of them, this is a great opportunity to say, hey, I really like, this virtual team member that I interviewed. You then have the opportunity to hire them. And like we mentioned in episode 1, they're coming on board with you through the company. So the only thing you're paying is whatever the fee is that the virtual company is charging you. So you're not paying taxes or unemployment or anything like that. You just pay that fee to the company. They will generally get you set up with the VA. Once this VA starts with you, I'm going to kind of skip this middle part for a second. Once the VA starts with you, you have to remember, and this is like the most important thing I always tell clients when they are going through this process. Your virtual team member is not going to come to you ready to roll day 1. They are not a plug and play team member. Just like any other team member that you're bringing on board to your practice, they are trained on your PMS system to a generic point, right? They are not going to be experts like you, Brittany, on open dental, okay? They're going to come with the basics and a clear understanding of how to use it, but you will need to train them to the very specifics of your PMS system, where you want notes placed or whatever the particulars are to your practice. Same with protocols and whatever it may be to the particulars of what they're going to be doing for you. Insurance verification, tell them exactly how you want the notes put in, how do you want things particularly done, just as though you were hiring another employee onshore, right? Anyone that would be coming physically to your practice. You still have to train them. So it's important to remember that this will not be, okay, I'm just going to sit down with this VA for just a couple days and train them, and then we're off and running. This is the bonus that I remind people of when they are hiring a virtual assistant. This virtual assistant is going to be the most loyal, dedicated employee you've ever had. So the investment that you make in them now, even if it takes you a couple of weeks to really invest in their training, will be the best investment you ever make in any employee. They'll never leave. They're super dedicated and they want to do the best job they can for you. They take constructive criticism very well. If something didn't work out, they want you to tell them what didn't work and how they should do it, even if you have to repeat it a couple times. My biggest key, I think, to virtual team members is the same thing when you're training or you went to dental school or anything else, is to watch, do, teach. Have them watch you once, have them do it once, and then have them teach you how to do it. That's how it sticks with you, right? You got to watch it, right? Then they have to be able to do it, and then have them explain it back to you how to do it. That's how you know if anyone understands how to do something. So again, that dedication and the time you give to that virtual team member will be absolutely worth every moment that you give them.
That's amazing. So when it comes time to actually start to train these team members, you said we're going to have them watch you, then do it, then teach you. What do you do if you maybe waited too long to bring on this VA and now having the bandwidth to train someone like that is difficult? Are there resources out there for offices who want to be able to bring on a VA but just are struggling with the idea of having to take that much time away from what they're doing to train?
Absolutely. So I've worked with several virtual companies, and there are plenty out there. Take your time, find a great one. The company that I enjoy the most and that I have the greatest relationship with is a company called Reach. They really put in a lot of time in their training before they send a virtual team member to your practice. But one thing that I appreciate about that is that they really do a great job of following up after the VA has been placed. They want to make sure that you have a great experience and that the transition into your practice is successful. If you need someone to physically come to your practice or to remotely help your VA in some just basic training, in some additional training with your PMS system, or hey, can you just train them in some, here's how we do it, right? Here's how we do it. Now, would you please take the time to do the training, because we don't have extra staff. We don't have extra people to spend, 3 or 4 all day with this person, with the virtual assistant, to train them. That is where I will step in. I'm happy to come with my business out to your practice, and I will either on site do it with you, be there so that if I have a question, right, to make sure that I'm not passing on my personal favorite way to do something, but I'm doing it the way your practice wants it, I'm more than happy to do it. And the reason I offer that to anyone that wants to bring on a virtual assistant is because I know the time and the effort that it goes, or that's needed to put into these virtual team members so that they can be with you long term. When we did this for the practice I worked in several years ago, we brought on 5 virtual team members, and we did it all at once, because when we brought one on first, I knew right away how much time was going to be needed. And so I said, no, bring them all on one time. How many do you want? How many do you think you're going to need in the future? And so we just brought on all 5 at one time. So it did, and I'll just transparently say, 3 weeks dedicated all day. But again, we had 5. So there's a lot of training, but it was also great to see that the virtual team members would help each other out too. So if one person knew and they asked a question, many of them would jump in and say, oh, remember it's this. And I liked that, because that's the teaching part. And that's where it would stick for everybody. So it was definitely a wonderful experience, and they really do want to help each other. So that pretty much, understanding that if you'll just give them the time and allow them the ability to learn, they do amazing. Those 5 VAs, by the way, are still with that practice now today. So I think that they called out maybe once. One of them got married, and she just wanted one day for her wedding. I was like, are you sure? You just want one day? And she's like, I just need one day just for my wedding day. So they have just a different mentality around the work that they do. And I really appreciated it. We really could count on them.
So, Rebecca, I'm in a practice. Hypothetically, I'm in a practice. I've
Mm-hmm.
hired a VA. I thought I was going to be able to handle this training myself. I'm fastly realizing that I, as the office manager, have put on one too many hats, as it may happen from time to time. And I call you. What types of training are you providing to these team members? Are you showing them just the basic functions of here's how you confirm an appointment? Are you giving them more tools on the PMS? Are you teaching them all over, like, what does dental terminology sound like? How do we say things in our practice? What does all that look like?
Yeah, this is a great question. A lot of it's one, it depends on, of course, what responsibilities the VA has.
Mm-hmm.
If they are in charge of answering your phones and scheduling patients, okay, let's just take the basics here.
Mm-hmm.
And the practice is kind of like, well, they're doing a good job. They're answering the phones, but we feel like they just need to have a little bit more better customer service with our patients, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm more than happy to get on a call or on a Zoom with the VA or multiple if they've hired more than one. And we talk through what customer service is. How can we interact with the patients? When we did the VAs with our dental company, we recorded phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a key in training them for the customer service part. Take those recorded phone calls, play them back. What went well, what didn't what go very well? How could we have done that better? And you don't have to have necessarily the recorded calls, but just talking through when a patient calls and they're angry, right? Or they're upset about their bill, what's the first thing we want to talk about, right? We want to talk about showing empathy and listening. And we have to role play those sometimes if we don't have recorded calls. But that's what it looks like, because you're right. Not every office has the ability to sit down and dedicate days and days all day to training the VAs. You mentioned something about the Brittany.
You're fine. We'll cut it.
What did you shoot? Oh, okay. You said something. Hold on a second, because my battery's dying. So sorry. I was really hoping we wouldn't have to cut things. Oh my gosh.
Behind the scenes look at Dental Decoder's podcast.
My laptop will hold battery for 2 episodes. Okay. Okay, I'm all right. Okay. So, Brittany, you mentioned something about dental terminology. And I think that's a great question. But one of the great things about most of the virtual companies that have the virtual team members for you to hire, they're doing a lot of that. They are going to make sure that they have all the background and the basic understanding about dental terminology and about the tooth chart and number. They're going to have all of that basic information down before they're sent to your practice. Another thing I really appreciate about the company I mentioned earlier, Reach, is that most of their virtual assistants have attended and gotten a 4-year college degree from a US-based college. Oh my gosh. A US-based accredited college in the United States. I think that's important. And a lot of times the degrees that they have obtained are in like accounting, healthcare management, business administration, those types of degrees. So what they're actually bringing to your practice is very beneficial, especially if you have someone who's going to be entering insurance payments. Maybe the one thing you share when you're looking for that VA is, I'd love someone who has an accounting background or a business degree. And they will have someone with that type of background that they can bring to you as an option when you're interviewing those virtual assistants.
So I'm actually kind of backtracking quite a bit here now because I want to just reiterate. So working with these VA companies, it's not like going on Fiverr or FreeUp and just hiring someone remotely to
No.
do the thing. These are dental specific team members that we can find.
Yes, very much
Awesome.
so. And they have gone through training at the virtual team, that the company, before they're even placed in your office. So they've gone through training like with Open Dental and a little bit on Dentrix and a little bit on this, so that they have the background that they need, so that when you call and you interview 3 to 5 virtual team members, they have a little bit of background in a little bit of everything, so that when you call and say, I want to hire this virtual assistant, they will immediately keep training in that PMS system as they're getting them set up and ready to go to come to your practice. They also do customer service training. They do HIPAA training. This is also very important for offices to understand. They are trained to understand HIPAA compliance, PCI compliance, and that the information that they're seeing in your practice is 100% needs to be protected, and they must follow US guidelines and practices when they are in your office. Also very important, and a question I get asked quite often as well. So bear that in mind, that they are required to go through a US standard and base compliance training before they can start in your practice.
One of the things that I thought was, well, it made me smile, was when we brought on VAs, their understanding of HIPAA was dramatically better than some of the people in our practice. So
Yes.
I thought that was
Yes.
interesting.
Yes. I'll share this. I have a VA, of course, for my business, and I had her go through one of the strictest HIPAA compliance trainings and had her take the test at the end. And she just literally went through the 2-hour training, took the test, didn't have any like extra like time to study. I just just go through it, take the test, just curious, 100%. Like didn't, I was like, dude, I don't know if I got 100% when I took the test.
Right?
Like I had to think about it. But yes, so they are very well trained, that they understand the seriousness of our guidelines that we must follow here in the United States. And I really appreciate and value that. And I want practices to know that, because that is one of the things they're very concerned about when they're talking about, you want someone just to remote into my system with all of my patients' information. And they need to understand that they are very, very clear on what that means and the seriousness if something were to be shared.
It's amazing. So,
I love it.
Rebecca, as we're starting to wrap this last episode, I want to ask you another play on our secret question, signature
I love
question
it.
that we end
Yes.
all of our episodes on. And that would be, if you had to pick one decoding moment or secret code when it comes to training a team member, what is the one action item that our listeners could take away when it comes to training their VAs?
Love this question. And I'm so glad you're asking it, because I don't think I've touched on it. One of, I think, the most effective ways when training and working with virtual assistants in your practice, and it shouldn't be shocking because I know we talk about it all the time with our dental practices in general when it comes to operations, is your SOPs, your standard operating procedures. This works just as importantly with your virtual assistants. If you have a standard in which you want them to keep, a great example I'll use is a scheduling handbook. If you have this laid out for, let's say, your virtual assistants, and you say, this is exactly how we schedule, they have a manual essentially to go off of. It shouldn't require any training. They have a manual, they can study it, and this is how we schedule. We did this for our VAs, and it was so down to the nitty gritty that it was almost kind of funny. Hygiene had like so many. Okay, if it's a prophy only, if it's a prophy and exam, If it's a prophy, exam, and an extra, and 4 bite wings. If it's a prophy, exam, and FMX. It was so specific, but it was a great way for our virtual assistants to understand exactly how we schedule, how much time, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do 2 SRPs back to back, our hygienist will kill you. So, all those kind of things. And it seems kind of redundant, but it was a really great conversation we ended up having with every provider in all of our locations. How do you want it? How do you want it? Because all of those VAs just worked in a hub, so they could access any one of the locations depending on, the phone call that came in. Mm-hmm. So it was important that they understood who wanted what when they scheduled. So that's just a really simple example. But honestly, having those SOPs laid out for your practice is absolutely key when you're training a virtual assistant. They can access it and look at it whenever they need it. If they're on the phone and they're like, I don't know, I can't remember, how much time does Dr. So-and-so at location C need for, it was a quick reference. Made it very easy training.
That's amazing. So, Rebecca, if an office wants to reach out to you to work with you, to build out SOPs, to add virtual team members, to in any way fine-tune their dental operations, how can they find you?
Absolutely. I'm sure you'll include all this in the notes, but my business is Transformational Dental Coaching, and you can find me on all the social media platforms, LinkedIn, and my email is Rebecca at yourtdcoach.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rebecca. This has been fantastic. As always, have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode of Dental Decoders podcast. We hope you took away a valuable piece of information. As always, don't forget to rate, share, and subscribe to help us build our community of dental decoders. We look forward to seeing you for next week's episode.